my freckles, Marvin moaned. Marvin had 8 freckles, 8 more than anyone in his entire class, and he counted them every single day, hoping at least one would go away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But every single morning he awoke with the same 8 freckles. Just then, a voice called from the next room. "Marvin! Oh, Marvin!" It was his mom. "Come in here and help! Your suitcases aren't going to unpack themselves." He pulled himself away from the bathroom mirror and scampered into the living room. Marvin and his mom had just moved to a brand new house in a brand new city. Boxes and suitcases full of things waited in a pile in the middle of the room. He picked up a suitcase and scrunched his nose. "I know you didn't want to move to a new city and leave all of your friends, but we have to move for my new job," she told him. "Now please be a good boy and take your things up to your room." Marvin dragged the suitcase up the stairs, making sure to be as noisy as possible. Thump, 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 thump. Marvin didn't like his new room at all. The floor squeaked when he walked on it, and the trees scratched on his windows like monster claws. He was just putting his last pair of socks away when he heard a familiar knock on the door. It was his mother. It was time for bed, and even though he was super grumpy, he agreed to get tucked in, and before long, he fell asleep. What was that noise? It sounded like it came from the closet. He tiptoed over to investigate. He pulled the door open with a creak. Sitting inside the closet was a brightly colored chest. He examined the mysterious chest very carefully, and finally he pried open the lid as quietly as he could. Inside was a very old map. Its edges were frayed and crumbling, and it was covered in what seemed like years and years of dust. Several stars adorned the map, and Marvin traced his finger along each one, and something about them seemed strangely familiar, like Marvin's freckles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just then, something marvelous began to happen. The stars began to dance and glow, and with them, every freckle on Marvin's face lit up. Each star leaped from the map and tumbled out Marvin's window, where they had created a magical staircase that disappeared high into the clouds. Never one to shy away from an adventure, Marvin hopped from star to star until he got to the very top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At the end of the golden staircase, he found himself in a mysterious foreign land. It was dark and gloomy, with spooky-looking trees that scratched at the skies. An ominous fog hugged the ground. Marvin cautiously took a look around. Before long, he heard noises. It was a herd of the most curious animals, bumping and bustling and bickering, and they were headed right for him. When they saw Marvin, they were very curious. "Let me see it," shouted a peculiar-looking giraffe. Her neck stretched longer and longer to see above the crowd. "Let me have a turn," snarled a pale-looking leopard. Just then, an odd-looking ladybug weaved in and out of the crowd. "Let me see," she squeaked. Marvin just stared at all of them in disbelief. "You can talk?" Marvin asked, a little uneasily. "Of course we can. Why not? You can talk, can't you? A rather plain-looking butterfly sung sweetly as she glided by. Everyone, look, she shrieked with joy. He's still got his spots. You mean my freckles? Marvin sighed. I hate my freckles. I'd give anything to get rid of them for good. Well, how did you keep them? The leopard roared. Why didn't she get them? The giraffe bellowed. She? Marvin gasped. Who's she? The evil queen. She hates any kind of spots, they told him. In fact, she's stolen every spot from the entire kingdom. Well, that's when Marvin realized why they looked so strange. They had no spots. Not the giraffe, the leopard, the ladybug, or the butterfly. They looked just plain. She wants the entire kingdom to be absolutely spotless, the ladybug sneered. She's sort of a neat freak. And if you're not careful, she'll get your spots too, warned the leopard. No sooner had they spoken those fateful words, from high up in the sky came a terrible racket. Evil queen, someone shouted, and everyone scattered. She swooped down on a magic vacuum cleaner, and Marvin could feel a tug on every one of his freckles. She swooped and swerved, and when she got close enough, the vacuum sucked every freckle right off of Marvin's face. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Once she had every single one, she was off like a shot. Oh no, everyone cried. Not you too. But Marvin was relieved. Finally, no more freckles. He turned to head back to the magical staircase and go home. But it was gone. Oh no, Marvin whispered to himself. My freckles are the key. They make the map magical. Without them, I'll never be able to get back home. We need to get all our spots and poor Marvin's freckles right away. This time she's gone too far, the giraffe spouted. Her castle is that away. Let's go get those freckles. And they were off. Marvin's new friends led him to the very door of the castle itself. They looked up high into the air, into the tallest window of the tallest tower, and there she was. She stuck out her tongue and made a face. Ha ha, she cackled. I have all your spots in my castle, and you will never get them back. They are locked away tight. Did anyone try the front door? The leopard asked. Marvin gave it a tug, and it swung right open. It wasn't even locked. Egads, the evil queen shouted. I always forget to lock that darn door. And the whole group stampeded into the castle. Charge, they yelled all together. As they burst through the castle doors, the evil queen waved her magic wand, and 100 enchanted washcloths exploded into the air like so many bats. They flapped and scrubbed at Marvin. They even tried to clean behind his ears. Everyone ran and dodged and scampered to avoid. They all ducked into a dark room and slammed the door tight. All was quiet for a moment. But in a poof of smoke, the evil queen appeared, and with another wave of her wand, 100 magic feather dusters appeared, with tickly, scratchy feathers. Marvin leaped here and there, trying to avoid what would surely be the tickling of his life. Marvin swatted and bonked at the dusters, and soon every single one of them went whimpering back to the evil queen. They had no choice but to press on. They all huddled together in a nervous clutch and made their way down one more dark and grimy corridor. Only At the end of this one, they found an enormous door. A glimmer of ominous light peeked out from underneath. "I think she's in there," Marvin said nervously. "But I'm scared," Marvin admitted. The plain little butterfly landed on Marvin's shoulder. "It's okay to be a little scared sometimes," she told him. "But don't worry, we're all here to help you." So Marvin carefully turned the doorknob and pushed open the heavy wooden door. One by one, they all tiptoed as quietly and carefully as they could. Marvin went first, followed by the butterfly, the leopard, the ladybug, and finally the giraffe. That's when they saw it. The evil queen's magical vacuum. It quivered and shook, full almost to bursting with all the spots in the kingdom. Marvin knew that his freckles were in there too. He started to creep quietly toward the vacuum. Just then the evil queen burst into the room. "Not so fast, Buster," she yelled. She sliced through the air with her magic wand once more, and from out of nowhere, an army of brooms and dustpans swept towards Marvin and his crew. The magic brooms swept them into magical dustpans, and they were about to end up in a huge magic garbage can when Marvin yelled, "Hey, wait a minute! Excuse me, Mrs. Evil, but I think it was really mean of you to take my friend's spots," Marvin squeaked. "Well, it was mean of you to barge into my castle," she responded. "But you started it," Marvin insisted. "No, you," she spat. "That doesn't even make sense," Marvin argued. "Your face doesn't make sense," she teased. And before long, they were hurling insults at each other back and forth. The evil queen was distracted, trying to think of a new insult when Marvin jumped down right on top of the magic vacuum. It started to buck and jump and quake. And soon it took off flying around the room with Marvin hanging on for dear life. Marvin didn't know how to fly a magic vacuum, and it spun out of control. He crash-landed right on top of the evil queen with a kerplunk. The vacuum bag broke, and the room exploded into spots. They swirled and twirled all over the room like a tornado. And they all flew back to their rightful owners and fit right back into place, all except Marvin's. They were nowhere to be seen. And now that they were gone, Marvin really missed his freckles. Suddenly, the vacuum bag gave one last burp, and out Marvin's freckles finally flew, every one present and accounted for. Every spot and freckle was back in place, and the evil queen was out cold. And with everything back to normal, Marvin and his new friends headed back to the forest. Just as Marvin had suspected, with the return of his freckles came the return of the magical staircase. He said his goodbyes and hopped from star to star until he was back in his bedroom window. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Back in his room, he folded up the magical map and returned it to the chest. And he realized nothing looked quite as bad as it had before. Not his new room, not his new house, and least of all, his 8 magical freckles. The